smarter than you, smarter than you, smarter than you. Can't you see I'm smarter than you, smarter than you, smarter than you. Can't you see? But
welcome, fans, to the premiere episode of Graham's Gallery, brought to you by the Dave Dynasty Show. I am your co-host for the program, Dave Dynasty, and I am joined by the most educated man in professional wrestling. Good doctor, you used to be big.
I'm still big. Wrestling has gotten small.
Perhaps that is. Perhaps it is. There is definitely nobody in wrestling as smart as Dr. Jerry Graham Jr. Good doctor. I remember back on television when you used to do the Graham's Gallery there. How many degrees did you always say you had?
Well, I just tell the truth. I have 4 PhDs, 8 master's degrees, 16 bachelor's degrees, and 19 associate's degrees, including an associate's degree in music appreciation from the Boston Conservatory.
That is why you are the most educated man in professional wrestling.
Truly safe to say that I have quenched my thirst for knowledge at some of the finest fountains of learning available.
That is why we're having you on, because you're going to share some of that knowledge, and maybe you can quench some of our thirst for knowledge.
Well, I'll be happy to, because one thing I know is wrestling. I'm an expert on wrestling. I'm the world's foremost authority on wrestling. About me or anybody else or I will field any question about wrestling you may have. There's no, my personal life is off limits, but as far as wrestling is concerned, anything you want to ask, go right ahead.
All right, sounds good. Well, the show is simple, like the doctor said. He's going to answer questions submitted by the listeners and tell stories and wherever that leads him to go. For the fans' information, the easiest ways to submit a question for the good doctor and for the show is we do have a Twitter now for the show, or you can also email us at drgrahamjr@davedynasty.com, and with both of those, doctor is spelled out, D-O-C-T-O-R. So with that, let's dive in. Doctor, are you ready?
I am ready.
The topic that we kept hearing the most on these questions, and we're going to try to maybe focus in on that today, is everybody wants to know about your brief stint in the WWF. Or the WWE.
I'll be happy to tell you. It's a brief story. It's a brief stint.
But it's a brief story. It's one of those things that people don't realize about you.
Okay.
So let's say it. In 1984, it was 1984. You were brought in, and the first question we got about it was people wanted to know, was there a particular connection or recommendation? How did this come about that you wound up doing these tapings for WWF in 1984?
Well, I'll tell you exactly how that happened. I was working for several promoters at the same time in the territories, and one of them was George Cannon from Windsor, Ontario. And he made a deal with Vince McMahon to promote Detroit for him. And he says, by the way, I have a man here that's really a great talker, Jerry Graham, and I think you should take a look at him. So we made a demo tape, and I'm not going to go into details, but it was I really sincerely feel, without being as modest as I can, I've never seen anybody in wrestling that can do interviews and talk as well as I, and do it with proper diction, English, sesquipedalian vocabulary. So anyway, we did this thing, and they hired me. Now, they had used me in a few matches around the Midwest, and I even got to go on a tour of Kuwait for 2 weeks, which was it's very interesting. So they did some good things for me. When it came down to brass tacks, they wanted me to be a manager because they enjoyed the video of me. It was just a mock interview. We pretended that Wojo was going to wrestle Bob Backlund, and how would I represent Wojo as a manager? It was never broadcast. Right. It was just a demo tape. So we sent it in, and they apparently liked it because they had me go to the Chase Hotel in St. Louis to do a taping session. And there they had me managing John Studd and Adrian Adonis and Dick Murdoch. The North-South connection.
Right.
So just before the match, keep in mind, I have my thing that I do. They changed my name, which was okay, but they gave me a name like Megan Manigoff. I'm 2 minutes from going on television, and said, "This is your new name." Now, I was open to have a new name because everybody wants to work for the WWF, but I wish they'd give me like 10 minutes to have it sink in, because Pat Patterson whispered it in my ear, and he said, "Oh, your name is." They're trying to think of a name for me. They didn't want me to use the name Dr. Jerry Graham, right. So I said, "Okay." Well, so it's Megan Manigoff. So anyway, I'm on my way to the. And they also told me when John Studd's match is over, there's going to be a 1-minute interview, including the question. So you'll have less than a minute to talk. They says, "We want to see if you can think on your feet. So we're not going to tell you what the question is going to be. We just want to see how you respond." It was kind of like an audition, I guess, but it was on the network television. So I went out with Stud, and when the match was over, Gene Okerlund comes up to me and says, Megan Manigoff, why does John Stud need a man like you? He's big, he's strong, he's tough, he seems to be able to handle himself in the ring. I says, he doesn't need me in the ring. What he needs for me to do is to take care of these commissioners, these corrupt promoters, these inefficient referees. He has all this stuff on his mind every time he goes into a match. Now he has a clear mind. He has nothing to worry about but wrestling. I'll take care of everything else, which I thought was a respectable answer to the question when I had no chance to prepare. What do you think of that answer?
I think it's
okay. When we got back to the dressing room, and John Stud, rest his soul, he was a great guy. He died way too young. But he started yelling at me. He says, you're not supposed to put yourself over. You're supposed to put me over. You're supposed to tell me I'm the biggest man in wrestling, and I can't be slammed. I says, John, did you hear the question that he asked me?
Right.
So he was really, getting hard on me. But also, Pat Patterson told me, do nothing while you're by the ring. Don't jump up and don't just stand there. We'll have you do other things later, because a lot of people saw that clip that was put on. I guess you put it on. Said, why didn't you do anything? I was ordered by Pat Patterson to do nothing. So I did what I was told. I didn't want to. I could have gone into the hysterics and everything. I'm good at that. But they were paying me, so I did what they told me.
Yeah.
So I got along very well with Dick Murdoch and Adrian Adonis, but they did all their own talking. And when it was over, in wrestling, we call taking a look-see. Maybe they wanted to just see. They liked my intro tape, my demo tape. They wanted to take a look-see. Apparently, they didn't like what they saw. Now, I will finish the story with just one little thing. I've been in business all my life, not just the wrestling business, but I was the biggest wholesale meat dealer in Northwest Ohio for 35 years. And there's times when you have to fire somebody. There's times when somebody that maybe you kind of like them, and they're really trying real hard, but they just couldn't get the job done. In the meat business as well as in my wrestling promotions, unless I caught somebody stealing, which happens in the meat business. But other than that, I would always feel bad about letting somebody go. But sometimes it's the right thing. So I'm going to give Vince McMahon absolutely, if I wasn't what he wanted, that's fine. You have Pat Patterson or somebody take me aside and say, Jerry, it's just not what we're looking for, and maybe down the road, you can do it nicely. You know what I mean? You know how I was fired? He had his girl, McMahon, call my secretary at the Tyler Meat Company and tell her to tell me I was fired. I mean, my secretary fired me from the WWF. But I realized that I think most people that are wrestling know McMahon's a big success, the greatest promoter that ever lived. He's a very wealthy man. He made all his money in the wrestling. But, he's never been what you call a sophisticated person. He's not a very couth person. He's not a good. Everybody that's worked for him, most people come away not liking him. Well, they all loved his father. So you don't have to be a jerk to be a successful promoter. Everybody I talked to who worked for Vince's father loved Vince Sr. They loved the guy. He was fair, and he fired. Believe me, he fired guys too. I'm telling you, as part of the business. But as you understand, I think that's just a little bit low class to have his secretary. I mean, he didn't have to do it personally. He could have had Patterson or any of the guys he had, lieutenants, either take me aside or after having a meeting, just call me up and say, Jerry, this is it. So, like I said, I left kind of a bad taste in my mouth. But like I said, I've dealt with people like that. He just didn't have a good upbringing. I mean, but he's a successful businessman, and he's the greatest promoter that ever lived based on ticket sales. So, double-edged sword there.
Now, and also in 1990, they brought in Bobby Heenan too. So, were you there before Heenan?
I was there before Heenan. I was there before Roddy Piper. I was there. I was supposed to take over as a manager, and they never let me give me my full. You tell a guy not to do anything. I thought they had a plan, because the bookers had the plan was to have me stand there and look like a schmo and then fire me. I don't know why they wasted their time. But once again, I got to go to Kuwait. I was in several shows there around the Midwest. They always paid very well. I got along real well with Jay Strongbow. They've been a good guy to call me up and say, "Hey, Jerry, we've been friends for 20 years, and this is just something that's happened." But it's just I've run into some of the greatest, finest gentlemen and ladies in wrestling, and some of the biggest.
Now, when you worked the house show matches and stuff, was that before this managing bit?
Yes. The managing thing was the end of it. I went to St. Louis. I managed 2 teams. We did 4 tapes that day at the Chase Hotel.
Yeah.
And then I And then I got the call, and my secretary told me I was fired. So
Yeah. Now, I saw in some results that in some of those matches you worked on where you worked with Don Kent, right? That worked the tag.
Yes, we worked a tag match at Cobo Arena against John Bonello and El Bracero. I'll tell you, I've been in matches that didn't work. You know, I've been in matches, we've all had that.
Yeah.
But this match was right on the money. This match was perfect. Well, the wrestlers were watching from the dressing room. The crowd was on their feet, screaming and yelling, and I guess that didn't what they were looking for either. So
Yeah, that's you and Bulldog Don Kent were a great team. Do you think there was ever any interest in maybe bringing you guys in as a team?
Nope, I don't think so. I just think they needed some filler or something. They told me I could bring my own opponents and everything, and I mean those guys are flyers, and Kent and me were catchers, and they did doubled over the top rope, but we caught him on the floor, stuff like that. It was just everything was just wild screaming, and the man that started me in wrestling, Martino Angelo, told me, you listen to what your boss has got to say and do what they tell you, but if you really want to know how your match went, listen to the crowd. And I'm telling you, that night the crowd was on their feet. We just tore that house down. And
now you said when you sent in the tape, talked about representing Great Rojo, right?
Yeah, make mock. He was going to wrestle Bob Backlund. And they wanted
Do you know? Was Wojo ever on Vince's radar? Because I still think he's one of the most underappreciated talents ever in wrestling.
Well,
I don't think he gets his recognition.
He came to Cobo, and they gave him some big fat slob that couldn't do anything. And that made Wojo look bad because, you got it takes two to tango. Yep. And I remember talking to Jim Barnett. I'm sure you're familiar with Jim Barnett. Yep. He was working for Vince at the time. And I said, this Wojo, he'd be perfect for you guys. He's on 4 Olympic teams. He's a 30-time national AAU champion. And he's willing to do business. He doesn't have an ego. And so they could have gone into towns and sent their man to the colleges, local colleges, to work out with WWF. And then if anybody wants to, challenge it, they still had kayfabe in those days. If anybody wants to challenge, they could just put him in with Wojo. That's what they used to call in the old days a policeman. Yeah. He would have been a perfect policeman for WWF. But they weren't. It wasn't his fault. They give us a big fat slob. He can't do anything. Yeah. What he's supposed to do. I told Jim Barnett about this, and Jim Barnett says to me, I'm so impressed. That's the way he used to talk. Yeah. I know he wasn't impressed. He said it with sarcasm. Yeah. I'm so impressed.
I've always held that Great Wojo does not get his recognition. That maybe he needed to, if he had got his chance on that bigger stage, I think he's one of the best talents ever, and that just doesn't get what he deserves.
Well, we had him wrestling anybody in the audience $10,000 if they could pin him, and I never saw Ric Flair or Hulk Hogan doing that.
No. So you mentioned that at these tapings you managed John Studd, Adrian, and Dick. So did you? I guess you. I don't know Studd with the interview, but was there any heat with these 3 guys when you came in to manage? Were any of them kind of put off that suddenly you were being put with them, or?
No, Adrian Adonis and I were good friends, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
And I knew him from before. He was believe it or not, he was a student of Dr. Jerry Graham Sr. himself. Yeah. Dr. Jerry helped him get started. And Dick Murdoch I'd never met before, but he seemed like a very nice man. And they let me know that they were in charge, and they did the interviews without me. But once again, going back to what Pat Patterson said, don't do anything. Just stand there. So, once again, if you watch the tapes, I did a good job of following orders, I think.
Yeah. Well, it just seems odd that, given that they were, it was almost like an audition type thing, it was like, well, how are you supposed to show what you're capable of if they've got you handcuffed?
Exactly. First of all, there's nobody. I'm sure you're going to get calls say, well, what about Bobby Heenan? What about Roddy Piper? What about this? What about that? All of them were the same thing. They were redundant. They said the same things over and over again. Whenever there was a radio station that needed a wrestler to come in, like if they're going to have a show that night, and there's a radio station that wanted a wrestler to come in and do some talk radio with the audience. Yeah. Who do you suppose they sent?
I'm sure you.
Right. Even in Kuwait, Don Kent and me were the lowest of the low. They had an English-speaking radio station, and they sent me.
Yep.
I mean, and like I said, if they didn't like my wrestling, I thought I was pretty good, but out-talk me. None. I don't care. That's how I feel. And now that I'm 70 years old, if somebody doesn't like it, tough. I used to try to get along with people. There was a lot of great guys that I used to get along with, I was friends with. I wasn't a belligerent person. I was always trying to get along with everybody. But when somebody would start on me, I'd have to stand my ground. I wasn't going to take anything from anybody either.
Yeah. Now, this was early 1984, so this is when Vince is getting ready to he's getting ready to put the rocket on Hulk and put company on his back.
Yep.
And there's always been the tale that Hulk wanted Heenan because of when they worked in the AWA. Do you think maybe that played into it at all? That Heenan telling Vince, "Hey, I need Bobby. This is the guy I need." So Vince just thought, "Well, I don't need some of these other guys."
Well,
maybe.
It makes perfect sense, but I don't know. I have no inside track to what went on in WWF. I know that Hogan and Keenan both came out of the AWA, but it's very possible that he brought him in.
Yeah.
But Hogan, remember this: Hogan was a great attraction. Okay, he put wrestling on the map worldwide. Nothing before, nothing since. I know they've had bigger crowds since then, but the technology has improved as well. But Hulk Hogan had to be told what to do. He wasn't what you call a good mind. And Vince McMahon took him, molded him, and made him into what he was. And you see, he had a big name, but he never, when he went like, it was just, once again, I've said some bad things about McMahon's character, but his ability as a promoter, I cannot besmirch because it would just make me, it's not how I feel. And he took Hulk Hogan. Vern Gagne had him for years. Why couldn't Vern do that? It was, Vince McMahon made Hulk Hogan. If it weren't for McMahon, there would have been no Hulkamania, none of that stuff. It was all Vince McMahon that did that.
Yeah. Now you mentioned that I put up the clips from some of your appearance there at the Chase, and I noticed in the clip the part you talked about where they asked about why Stud needed you, and at least in the clip they cut off your comments.
Yeah. Oh,
was that?
No,
that was that.
I don't know why. To me, I've been in this business for years. You got a manager-wrestler combination. You're not supposed to be competing with each other. You're supposed to be a unit. Right. And if I'm saying something to get people mad at me, it's to get them mad at the team.
Yeah.
Now, John Studd had trouble with a couple of other managers, same thing. He was also worried about the manager getting more heat than him. I would do nothing but trying to help him. I would do nothing but trying. If we want to have a real heel manager be in this corner, I would be more than happy to be there. But it didn't work out that way, and like I said, you got to let things go. If you let things bother you and you stew about things, the old saying is you're letting people live in your head rent-free.
You're right.
So I just let it go. Historical things that happen. I'm not blowing off steam. I'm not bloviating. I'm not anything like that. I don't just get the wrong idea. But I'm just telling you what happened. You ask me a question, I give you an answer. Maybe too long of an answer.
Yep.
But
No. Now, I know Stud worked in the WWA a little bit in the mid-'70s as Chuck O'Connor. And
I knew that's where I first met him.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Did you guys meet there? How did you get along pre-WWE?
We got along fabulously.
Yeah.
He was such a good guy. Chuck O'Connor would talk in the dressing room. Same way that night in the Chase Hotel. After it was all over, John and me had a beer together, and everything seemed to be fine. Then Bobo Brazil comes to me. John Studd's been laughing about he's the one that got you fired at the WWF because you tried to outshadow him. Yeah. And I don't know if John Studd had the clout to get somebody fired. Maybe he did.
Right.
I mean, that stuff will always be a mystery that I don't care about. It's over. It's done with. It's history. I proved my worth in the other promotions. And
right. So did you ever see Studd again after that, or was that the last time you ever saw him?
Nope. The last time I saw him.
So.
Yeah.
Huh.
This wasn't a death penalty. Getting an argument with me after a match was not a death penalty offense. I was very upset when he died.
Right.
I was too young. I think he was like 48 or something. He was much too young. No, nice.
Yeah. Have you seen his son now is starting to wrestle? Big Sean Studd looks a lot like.
Oh, I hope he does well.
But I guess.
Yeah,
he's a big guy too, and I think he even wears one of his dad's robes, and it's pretty weird. He looks like a young John Studd. So, but
Well, the thing is, it's good, but you got to remember that wrestling fans. Another thing Jim Barnett told me. He says when we were going to bring Dick the Bruiser back to Cobo to wrestle Wojo, which did a big house, by the way, it's a really big house. He says I've never drawn money with nostalgia. My point being, many of the fans today are younger and don't even know who John Studd was. Hardcore fans do. So Sean Studd, he said that's his name, he's going to have to make it on his own.
Yep.
And I hope he does. I wish him the best of luck.
Yep.
But you can't lie. You can't be Humphrey Bogart's son tried acting and didn't make it. Clark Gable's son tried acting and didn't make it. you've got to have the talent yourself. And I haven't seen Sean Studd, but I hope he makes it, because his father overall, except for this little incident we had, he was always a nice guy.
Do you know, was there ever any interest in you coming back, doing any other appearances for WWF? Did they ever?
No.
Never heard from him again?
No. Never heard from him again. And
not even to work a dark match or anything?
Brazil, once again, who was a good friend of mine, he said they wanted to work at a fair in Columbus, Ohio. They told him he could bring his own opponent if he wanted to, and he wanted to know if I wanted to go. But I tell you the truth, I'd have felt funny about going after having been fired. You know what I mean? I didn't want to just go up.
Yeah,
so,
right, okay.
Nobody reached out to me, no.
No, but Bo did. He was going to bring you in as his opponent.
Bo helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Bo helped me a lot in my career. He and now I'm promoting. I'm the matchmaker for Powerbomb Wrestling, and I've got Bobo Jr. working for us now. He's doing a really good job for us.
Yeah. So when you, as you sit here and you look back on your brief little stint in WWF, how do you feel that fits within your career? I mean, when you reflect upon it, or is it just a blip that doesn't even?
It's just a blip. It didn't work. You know, yeah. Apparently, like I said, wrestling has. I know from reading your stuff on the internet, Facebook and such, that you are a good student of wrestling. And if you're as good a student as I think you are, you know that Dick the Bruiser and I were very tight. Did you know that Dick the Bruiser was offered the booking job at WCW?
No, he was. When was this?
Yeah, this was in the 80s, and he turned it down. Now, talking about wrestling being partly politics, what do you suppose the Bruiser would have taken over the book?
I'm sure he would have taken you right along with him.
Not as a wrestler, as a manager.
Yeah, was he still promoting at that time, or was this when they offered?
He was still doing a little bit. He didn't want to do it. It was too much work. So I said, well, you know, I could have helped you.
Okay.
You know, I wouldn't have,
yeah.
You know, he could have just said, here's what I want to do. I could have made the towns for him. Yeah, but he didn't want to do it. So, but that's the politics.
No, I remember him making an appearance for WCW. I can't remember the details.
He refereed a match between
a special referee,
a masked guy that turned out to be Flair, and I think it was Sting.
Okay, the Black Scorpion thing or something.
Ric Flair.
Yeah,
and it was Bruce.
So was that around? Do you know? Was that around the same time they were offering the book?
I think that was the time, because that's what destroyed WCW. Yeah. They didn't have a proper booker down there. You know, all the matches were ending with double disqualifications, people running into the ring. People want to see winners and losers. It's okay to do something crazy once in a while, but if it gets to be commonplace, it loses its
value. Yeah, right. That's crazy to think of what could have been then if
that bothers me. That bothers me more than the WWF, because I knew that was a political move. I remember when I was in Kuwait, they were videotaping the matches. They never showed them on TV. But Howard Finkel called me up and said, Jerry, I just got done watching your match with Ivan Koloff. And he says, that was really terrific. He said, I think you may have a future with us. So it made me feel good for a while.
Yeah.
But it never panned out. You know?
Okay, well, that's all we have on the WWF, but I'll ask you here a couple little side questions. We had one listener that wanted, we mentioned Bulldog Don Kent earlier, a longtime partner, friend of yours, and they wanted to know, what was Don Kent like outside the ring as a person, as your friend? What kind of guy was he?
He was as great a guy as you ever want to meet. First of all, he was a real athlete. He was a two-legged baseball, and when he was outside the ring, he'd do anything to help you if he could. I remember Wojo's son was playing high school football, and so Don Kent came down and spent a few days in 3-1 and worked with Wojo's son, and Wojo said it made a big improvement on his son's game. I mean, so he helped a friend's son play football. He would do anything for you if he was your friend, and I'd say he was all around nice guy. My son Jerry, who was around wrestling, he always liked Don Kent. Don Kent was always nice to him. He was always a good guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's your question.
Yeah, I used to always loved you and Don Kent teaming, and I always loved when you did the promos. I believe these were in the Bedlam days. And when they would do the dog barking, and Don Kent would just lose his cool with the dog barking.
Yeah. Well, you shouldn't bark at Don Kent. He was an educated man.
That's right.
That big dog biscuits to the ring and throw them in the ring and stuff like that. He did that before Bruiser Benham, though. That was his thing.
Okay.
We teamed up. We were champions in in the WWA in Indianapolis, way before
Right.
Bruiser Bedlam.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where I got my first break in the wrestling in the big time was with Dick the Bruiser.
Yep.
And I was sent there on the recommendation of a guy from Cincinnati named Les Ruffin of blessed memory. He did a lot of things to help me out in career. I got into the Chicago Amphitheater, the AWA matches there. In partnership with Dick the Bruiser. That was a really smart move. They both got TV on different channels in Chicago. They said instead of competing,
Right.
why not make one big promotion? And it really worked. You watch one show, they had a whole crew of wrestlers and announcers, but they were both pushing this big mammoth show
Right.
coming up. I've been in front of the Chicago Amphitheater when the place was packed. I don't know how many it held, 15, 20. I have no idea how many it held, but I've been there many a time when the place was absolutely sold out.
And I don't know whether you'll know this. I'm not familiar with this, but someone asked, what do you know about the box office was robbed story? Do you know anything about that?
Well, I know about it secondhand, okay? This is
Okay.
when I did my book, Confessions of a Big Time Wrestler. All it was stories about wrestlers I had met and things I had heard about. That's why when guys went on the internet and said that I wrote a book to put myself over, they had the book because it wasn't about me per se.
Yeah.
But the story, I divided them into three sections. Things I hadn't seen but I thought was true because of the source, and urban legends. So I'll put this into the middle ground. I believe the source. I don't want to reveal the source. I don't want to get people mad at each other.
Yeah.
But the story went that a certain promoter owed some guys some money.
Okay.
And he said, I'll make it up to you on the next show. And it was a Midwest show. And there was a big house that night.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, the promoter's son, supposedly, once again, this is just a story that I heard, they hit the box office. There's no money left. And they used that as an excuse not to pay. Well, I'll tell you who the victims were.
Boys.
The victims were Terry Funk and Dory Funk Jr. They're the ones that didn't get paid. So,
that might not be the right two guys to show.
well, I'm just saying that I heard that story over the years. I tend to believe it, but I couldn't swear in a court of law because I was just,
Yep.
it's viable witnesses. But
All right, well, let's try one more here. It says, and I don't know whether this will apply to you or not. It says, what were your dealings or association with
Never
Chicago
heard of
Challenge Wrestling? Never heard of them.
I'll
I haven't
tell you
either.
why.
That's what I was
This
going to
might
ask.
have been your site.
I know.
I was asked by somebody about Leon Spinks wrestling for a promotion in Chicago. And
Okay.
and somebody showed a promo of Wojo and I pushing Leon Spinks for a Hammond. But I had got Leon Spinks. I'd become acquainted with him. He wanted to get involved in the wrestling business because he couldn't box anymore because he was getting up there. He wanted to trade on his name. So, this guy, he made millions and lost millions in boxing. I told him, I says, I can get you transportation and $1,000 a night. And every place I sent him, including Japan, he got well paid. And I told him I never took a penny for booking him. Yet I just wanted to do the champ a favor. And so I promoted some matches with him. I made money on the promotion of him. I never took money from him. And he, all of a sudden one day I hear that he's working for some guys in Chicago getting $25 a night. Was that what you were getting at, Leon Spinks? Is that where you were heading with that question? Or?
Yeah, that's what they mentioned. Yeah, I'm not wasn't really familiar with the
I
story.
never sent Leon to wrestle in Chicago.
Okay.
And then I heard he was working for guys in Chicago, that they made a deal. They didn't need me anymore. I got 1,000. I couldn't figure it out.
So maybe they're making the connection because of your connection with
Well,
Leon.
somebody used my name.
Thank you.
Somebody used my name.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Ah.
Somebody,
Gotcha.
it's not an uncommon practice to get pulled
Right.
to wrestle in a town I knew nothing about. And, it was a fundraiser for a booster club near Toledo, where I live. And the guy at the booster club called me up and called me everything that you can imagine because I didn't show up at the time. And I said, I didn't even know about it. Apparently they got a bunch of guys that were like students or something, and they just stunk the place out. But the promoter got a big guarantee. Later on, the FBI got hold of me looking for this promoter. He was going all over the country doing that. But I told him, I didn't agree to wrestle for these guys I didn't know. Had I known I was being advertised, I would have called the school and said, this is not a correct thing to do. But, you get left holding the bag.
Yeah, like you said earlier, there's some truly great guys in wrestling, and there's some truly horrible
Yeah,
guys
I
in
met the
wrestling.
best.
So,
Who are some of the best guys I met?
Yeah.
Best guys I met is Roddy Piper. I trained with Randy Savage. I mean, there's a lot of good guys, and the jerks too. The two biggest being Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion.
No, you're not the only one that I've heard say that opinion.
Yeah, well, that's right. You know, and the sad part is when you're on top and you're Frank Sinatra, you can be nice to everybody. You know, guys that are usually mean are guys that are worried about losing their place. Hogan and Flair didn't have anything to worry about. They were just jerks out of natural instincts, I guess.
Well, I think we'll wrap it there then. How about that? That's going to wrap it up for this episode of Graham's Gallery, the premiere episode here, and I think we'll be back around the same time next month and do another episode. We're going to try to do this monthly. And
well, that's fine with me. You get on Dave Dynasty, you can tell they can ask anything about wrestling, although I like to talk about me, of course. Yep. But anything they want to know about wrestling, I know about it.
All right. Well, we'll definitely going to talk a lot about Bruiser Bedlam. We get a lot of questions about Bruiser Bedlam stuff, and
I got a lot of answers for you.
Yeah, obviously that was your thing, so we'll hit that a lot. Thank you, sir.
It was your pleasure entirely.
That's right. It was. Thank you, Dr. Jerry Graham Jr.
And remember, fans, join us here again next month for another edition of Graham's Gallery. Until then, you can submit your questions for the good doctor via Twitter, which is at Dr. Graham Jr. That is doctor spelled out DOCTOR. Or you can drop us an email at drgrahamjr@davedynasty.com. Once again, doctor spelled out. And hit us up on Facebook on the official page, which is also Dr. Graham Jr. Thank you for listening. Thank you to the good doctor for all the wisdom and knowledge and for quenching our thirst for education. Until next time, fans, this is Dave Dynasty. Be good, be safe, be independent, and keep on growing. Good night and goodbye.
Smarter than you, smarter than you, smarter than you. Can't you see I'm smarter than you, smarter than you, smarter than you. Can't you see? But